Shalom WJC family. This week in Shul we will be reading Parshat Lech Licha. And this is an important parsha. It's the beginning of the Jewish story, right? The beginning of the story of the first Jews, Abraham and Sarah, and their journey from Ur to Israel. Right? When they leave, God just tells them, I'm going to show you where. We now know that is the promised land. It is Israel. A lot of fundamental connections, foundational connections of what it means to be Jewish come from this parsha. And maybe that's why the parsha begins with this very odd phrase, Lech Lecha, which means God comes to Abraham and says, you go, Lech Lecha. But it's a very odd phraseology. There are lots and lots of other ways in Hebrew to say, in biblical Hebrew, to say, you go. And Lech Lecha is a very odd formation. So why does it look that way? One possible explanation is it's very pretty, right? Lech Lecha in the Torah looks exactly the same. Lamed Chaf, Lamed Chaf. Only if you know the vowels do you know that it says Lech Lecha. It could be Lech Lech, it could be Lecha Lecha. You, being in the know, it's Lech Lecha. You go. So maybe it's this pretty construction in order to show us, like, hey, something big is happening here. Your eyes should be drawn here. This is it. This is the beginning of the Jewish story. Maybe. But there's also something to be learned by taking the phrase literally. Lech Lecha. Go to yourself. Literally is what that means. Go to you. God comes to Abraham and says, go to you. And the mystics interpret this to mean a journey of self-discovery. Right? God saying to Abraham, you need to learn who you are. And as you learn who you are, I'm going to take you on this journey to Israel. And together, you being you, Abraham, and me being God and us being together in the promised land, we are going to do something amazing. We are going to teach humanity about my existence and the ethics that come with that, and that there are standards by which we should all treat each other, and that the world is still in process, and we need to use our creativity as people to help God perfect creation. But the first step on that journey, Abraham, is Lech Lecha. You go and find out who you are. There's a midrash, actually, that Rabbi Dalton spoke about this morning. Coincidentally, I'm going to be speaking about it tomorrow morning as part of my my shiur from 8:30 to 9 on our live stream. And the midrash says that Abraham is walking through the world. And what's it like? It's like a person walking by a beautiful palace and the palace is on fire. So Abraham saw the world and it was, in his eyes, on fire. And the way Rabbi Dalton taught it this morning, and I think it's a keen insight and one that I share, although my teaching on it will be a little different tomorrow, is that Abraham senses the world on fire in the same way that we sense the world on fire. Right? This time of anxiety, of pandemic, of political tensions, of suspicion and misinformation, and so on, that it feels like the world is on fire. And God's advice to Abraham when he sees the world on fire, according to this midrash, is Lech Lecha. You go to yourself. That doesn't mean protect yourself, guard yourself off from this fiery world and go into isolation. No, you go, you have to go out, you have to be in the world, but be in the world as yourself. The world needs you right now, Abraham. And so too, I think the Midrash is telling us the world needs us right now. The world doesn't need Abraham right now. The world needs you right now. The world needs me right now. I was speaking earlier this week to someone and we spoke about one of my favorite Hasidic tales, one of the ones that is central to who I am as a Jew and as a rabbi. It's the tale of Zushia of Chanapol, a very, very righteous tzaddik of a Hasidic Rebbe. And he's on his deathbed surrounded by his Hasidim, and he's crying. And the Hasidim, maybe a little callously, ask him, like, Rav, why are you crying? You are so righteous. You have nothing to worry about. You have nothing to fear from the world to come. What are you crying about? And depending on the version of the story, Zusha responds something to this effect. My disciples, I'm not crying because I'm afraid that I'm going to get to stand before my Creator and he's going to ask me, Zusha, why weren't you the Baal Shem Tov? Of course, I couldn't be the Baal Shem Tov, the founder of Hasidism, right? I couldn't be that. The Besht was the Besht, and I've got to be who I am. And I'm not worried that I'm going to get there and he's going to say to me, Zusha, why weren't you the Maggid of, like the Maggid of Mezrich, the second generation, the disciple of the Baal Shem Tov? He says, how could I be like the Mezrich or Maggid? Who am I? The Maggid was the Maggid. He said, but I'm very afraid I'm going to get to stand before my Creator and he's going to say, Zusha, why weren't you a Zusha? That story is so poignant. I think especially in today's world when everyone's on social media and crowing about all their accomplishments and how great their lives are, whether it is true or not, but are the well-curated lives of people we see, celebrities, neighbors, everyone on social media. There's so much pressure to be something other than what we are. But that's not what God wants from us. God says, Lech Lecha to Abraham. The world's on fire, Abraham, and I need you. I made you. I created you with a tafkid, with a task in this world, a mission that only you can accomplish. But the truth is, God doesn't say Lech Lecha only to Abraham. God is also saying Lech Lecha to you, Lech Lecha to me. Each of us was given a sacred task, a tafkid in this world, and the world needs us now as much as ever. It is time, in this moment, for us to really reflect on Lech Lecha, to take that mystical journey inward, to see what our neshama is here to do, who we are supposed to be, and how we particularly can help in the world now. It's not going to be the same as Abraham. And your answer to that question is not going to be the same as my answer. But if we're not doing the first part, Lech, if we're not embarking on the journey of self-discovery, then we are missing our calling. We are not doing our tafkid. And that's our purpose. That's why we're here. And the world needs us now as much as ever. May we all find comfort on that journey. May we all have the courage to take the steps that are needed for us to help heal this world aflame. May we all have a Shabbat Shalom, a very peaceful Shabbat of discovery.